Sure, here's section 1 of the script with a minimum of 760 words, written in a concise, emotionally engaging style, avoiding fluff or repetition, while staying faithful to the infidelity narrative arc. If someone had told me 5 years ago that I would be the kind of woman who cheats, I would have rolled my eyes and walked away. But here I am, sitting with the weight of a truth I never imagined would be mine to carry. It didn't happen all at once. That's what people don't understand. Betrayal doesn't crash into your life, it seeps in slowly, disguised as unmet needs and quiet justifications. David and I had a great beginning. We met in college, fell hard, made reckless decisions that somehow worked out. He was everything I needed back then: ambitious, grounded, safe. We moved in together a year after graduation and got married in a courthouse ceremony with only 5 guests. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt real. For a while, that was enough. We built a quiet life, nothing extravagant, decent house, shared Spotify playlists, Sunday pancakes. Stability. Comfort, but love changes shape, and comfort can harden into distance if you stop tending to it. Somewhere along the way, David started vanishing behind work emails and long meetings. The conversations got shorter. I'd ask about his day, and he'd answer with a shrug or a grunt. No more kisses in the kitchen, no more spontaneous weekend getaways. I tried. I asked to plan a weekend trip, he said he couldn't get time off. I brought up couples therapy once. He nodded and changed the subject. It wasn't malicious. He wasn't cruel. He just checked out. And I was left clinging to a version of him that had already disappeared. I didn't wake up one day and decide to betray him. It started with exhaustion. Emotional starvation. I went through my days on autopilot, smiling at friends, performing the role of the devoted wife while feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. No one noticed, not even David, and then Eric joined our department. He wasn't anything extraordinary at first glance. Quietly confident, easy to talk to, a little sarcastic. But he listened. He remembered what I said in meetings, followed up later to ask how a client call went. Small things. Things that shouldn't have meant so much, but they did. One morning, he brought me coffee, said he remembered I liked oat milk instead of cream. David hadn't remembered that in 2 years. At first, I told myself it was innocent. I'd laugh at his jokes, share harmless banter, nothing serious. But then I started lingering after meetings, waiting for moments when we'd walk to the elevator at the same time. I checked my reflection before heading to work, not for David, but for someone else. There was a day, we were both staying late, and I made a joke about burning out. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "You deserve better than running yourself empty." I froze. I hadn't heard words like that in months. Maybe years. And I knew something had shifted. A line had been drawn, and I was inching toward it. I started comparing everything. David would forget to say goodnight, Eric would text just to check in. David missed my birthday dinner because of a late meeting, Eric took me out for lunch the next day and remembered what kind of cake I liked. The contrast was brutal, but it was my reaction that scared me most. I wasn't angry at David, I felt nothing. That was the red flag. I should have been trying harder, speaking louder, shaking him awake. Instead, I found myself smiling when Eric's name lit up my phone and sighing in resignation when David walked through the door. Lena, my best friend, noticed something. She asked if everything was okay between me and David. I lied. Told her we were just in a rough patch. She nodded, but I could see she didn't buy it completely. I started lying more after that. It got easier every time. Then one night, after a work event, Eric offered to walk me to my car. It was raining. He held his jacket over my head, and we stood there in the dim glow of a streetlight, laughing about something trivial. Then silence. He looked at me, close, too close. My heart raced, not from fear but from the terrifying realization that I wanted him to kiss me. And when he did, I didn't pull away. I wish I could say I stopped it there. That I went home and confessed or cried or did anything noble. But I didn't. I drove home in silence, heart pounding, replaying the kiss over and over in my head. I climbed into bed next to David, who barely stirred, and stared at the ceiling for hours. That kiss wasn't the betrayal. It was the symptom. The betrayal had started long before, in the quiet neglect, in the spaces between our words, in the loneliness I had wrapped myself in like a second skin, and now I knew. I was standing on the edge of a secret that could destroy everything. Here is section 2 of your script, continuing directly from section 1. It maintains the same concise, emotionally sharp style with at least 760 words, focused purely on the events and emotional stakes without any fluff or repetition. It didn't take long after that night for the boundary between Eric and me to dissolve completely. What started as messages turned into calls, then secret meetings. We were careful at first, always in places no one from work would recognize us. I justified everything to myself. I told myself I wasn't happy. That I had tried with David. That I deserved to feel wanted again. Every lie made the next one easier. Eric never pressured me. That made it worse. He let me choose everything, the pace, the secrecy, the silence. He never asked for more than I gave. He knew I was married. And I think he liked the illusion just as much as I did. It was a bubble, suspended between two worlds where nothing real could reach us. We lived in text messages and hotel rooms. That's all it ever was. A temporary escape disguised as something deeper. At home, I became mechanical. I cooked dinner, I laughed at shows I wasn't watching, I made excuses to avoid intimacy. David noticed, but he didn't confront it. He started coming home earlier, offering to help with the dishes, asking how work was. Too late. It all felt performative, like trying to fix a house after the foundation had already cracked. I responded with politeness, not warmth. My guilt didn't show up as sadness. It showed up as resentment. For every time I had reached out and been ignored. For every year I spent waiting to feel seen. I started lying about everything. Meetings, deadlines, traffic. I could look him in the eye and tell him I was tired, then leave to meet Eric. I hated how easily I did it. I hated that I didn't feel like the same person anymore. But even that self-loathing wasn't strong enough to stop me. There was one night, David planned a dinner at home. Cooked everything himself. He tried to talk, really talk, and I remember staring at him and wondering how long it had been since I had actually looked at his face. Not just seen it, but studied it. The lines on his forehead, the way his eyes held questions he didn't dare ask. I felt panic. I left the table mid-meal, said I had a headache. He didn't stop me. A week later, I made a mistake. Left my phone on the counter while I showered. I came back to find David sitting on the edge of the bed, holding it. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just asked, "Who is Eric?" Everything in me froze. I stared at him, heart pounding, throat closing. I opened my mouth and closed it again. And that silence? That was the confirmation he needed. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy but calm. How long? He asked. I couldn't lie again. Months, I whispered. Since spring. He stood up, walked to the window. His back was to me. Why? I didn't know how to answer that. Not in a way that would make sense. I could have said I was lonely. I could have said I felt abandoned. I could have said 1,000 things. Instead, I said nothing. He turned to face me, and I'll never forget what he said next. You could have left me. That would have hurt less. That broke something in me. I cried for the first time in weeks, not out of fear of being caught, but from the realization of what I'd done. Not just the affair, but the slow dismantling of someone's trust. The quiet cruelty of pretending everything was fine while building a life outside of him. He packed a bag that night. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just silence, heavy and final. Before leaving, he looked at me and said, "I loved you. I still do. But I don't know who you are anymore." After he left, I sat on the bedroom floor, phone still buzzing with messages from Eric. I didn't answer them. I couldn't. The moment David walked out, everything felt different. Eric wasn't comfort anymore. He was a mirror of my worst choices. I realized then that this wasn't about him. It never had been. I wanted to feel something again, and I chased it in the wrong place. I blamed David for being absent, but the truth was, I stopped fighting for us long before I crossed the line. And in the end, I didn't just cheat on my husband, I betrayed every part of myself that once believed in loyalty, honesty, and love. There's a specific kind of shame that comes with knowing you destroyed something with your own hands and watched it fall apart without stopping it. That was the moment the affair stopped feeling like a secret and started feeling like a sentence. Here is section 3 of your script with a minimum of 760 words, keeping the same direct, emotionally grounded tone. It concludes the story with clarity, accountability, and reflection, without repeating any previous material. After David left, I expected some kind of emotional collapse. Maybe that was the punishment I thought I deserved, a breakdown, an unraveling. But instead, everything just went still. The silence in the house was unbearable. His absence filled every corner louder than his presence ever did. I kept expecting to hear his keys in the door or his footsteps upstairs, but they never came. Days blurred into weeks, and I kept going to work, pretending things were normal. They weren't. Eric tried to stay in my life at first. He called, sent messages, asked how I was holding up. But something had shifted. He wasn't the escape anymore. He became a reminder of everything I had destroyed. Every word he said felt like a continuation of the lie I no longer wanted to live in. I stopped answering. He didn't chase me. Maybe he saw it too, that we were never real, only convenient. Lena found out a few weeks later. I didn't tell her. She pieced it together after noticing the change in my behavior, the tension in my voice, the way I avoided talking about David. When she confronted me, I admitted everything. I'd never seen her so disappointed. She didn't yell or judge, just looked at me like someone she didn't recognize. I lost her too, in a way. Our conversations became colder, shorter. Another casualty I had encountered. I went to therapy on my own. Not because I thought it would fix things with David, but because I didn't know who I was anymore. I couldn't keep blaming the marriage. I had to face the truth that I let myself slip so far into emotional detachment that I stopped caring who got hurt along the way. The therapist asked me once if I still loved David. I said yes, without hesitation. But love wasn't enough. Not after what I'd done. David and I met again 2 months later. Not a reconciliation, just coffee. He looked tired, older, like someone who'd been carrying more than he let anyone see. We talked like strangers being polite. He didn't ask about Eric. I didn't bring it up. He told me he was living with a friend, thinking about getting a new place. He said he wasn't sure what he wanted yet. I told him I understood. He asked if I regretted it. I said yes. Not just the affair, but the silence. The way I let distance become the norm. The way I stopped showing up before anything even went wrong. He nodded but didn't respond. He wasn't there to forgive me. He was there to say goodbye in a way we hadn't before. We left without hugging. That was the last time we saw each other. I spent the next year rebuilding parts of myself I didn't realize were broken. Not to get him back. Just to feel whole again. I stopped checking his social media. I didn't stalk his life or wonder who he was seeing. That wasn't my place anymore. I made peace with the fact that closure wasn't something he owed me, it was something I had to create myself. People think infidelity is about sex. It's not. It's about needs that go unspoken until they find another outlet. It's about what we ignore, what we avoid, and the emotional debts we refuse to pay in our relationships. I never planned to cheat. I just didn't plan not to. I don't blame David for what happened. He was flawed, distant, emotionally unavailable, but I was silent, resentful, and passive. We both failed. The difference is, I made the choice that ended us. Now, when I look back, I don't feel anger. Just sadness. For the version of us that never made it. For the woman I used to be before I forgot how to fight for something instead of running from it. I miss him sometimes, not the man he became, but the man I married. The one who used to hold my hand during movies, the one who made breakfast on Saturdays. I miss the life we almost had, but that life is gone, and I was the one who broke it. I've learned that secrets don't stay buried. They live inside you, taking up space until there's no room left for anything else. And when they finally come out, they don't just hurt the people you love. They burn everything clean. No second chances. No clean slates. Just consequences. If there's one thing I know now, it's this: some mistakes don't come with lessons. They come with endings. And all you can do is carry the truth of what you did and choose never to be that person again. Here is section 4 of your script with a minimum of 760 words, continuing the story with the same tight, emotionally driven narrative, no fluff, no repetition, no headings. It's strange how you can still love someone after everything, but know you can never be with them again. That's the part no one talks about. People think betrayal kills the love, that once trust is broken, feelings just shut off. It doesn't work that way. I still love David. I just wasn't the person he could trust anymore, and I had to live with that. Months passed. I kept going to work, eating dinner alone, sleeping in a bed that used to feel smaller when he was in it. Everything about my life stayed technically intact, same apartment, same job, same routine, but nothing felt the same. I learned how to live with absence. It didn't hit me all at once. It came in small, quiet moments. Folding laundry and finding his old t-shirt. Catching myself reaching for 2 plates instead of 1. Realizing how many habits are built around someone you no longer have. Eric disappeared from my life without a word. He probably thought I hated him, but I didn't. I didn't feel much at all when he stopped contacting me. He had served a purpose I was too ashamed to admit. He distracted me from the truth I didn't want to face. Once that truth was out, there was nothing left between us. I don't think I was ever in love with him. I think I was in love with being wanted. That's a hard thing to admit, to realize your feelings weren't about the person at all, but about what they gave you that you were too afraid to ask for at home. I never apologized publicly. I didn't make dramatic posts or beg for forgiveness in some grand gesture. I wrote David a letter. I didn't send it. I still have it, folded in the back of my journal. It wasn't for him, it was for me. I needed to write it to understand what I had done. To own every piece of it without excuses. I stopped blaming the marriage. I stopped blaming the circumstances. It was my decision, my failure. That's what accountability looks like. Quiet, painful, honest. I started saying no to things that drained me. I cut ties with people who fed into my escapism. I stopped pretending to be okay. I told Lena the truth when she asked how I was doing, and even though things weren't the same between us, I appreciated that she still asked. Not everyone sticks around when you fall from grace. The ones who do. They don't need explanations. Just effort. There was no redemption arc. I didn't win anything back. I didn't get the man, the friends, or the closure people crave in stories like this. What I got instead was clarity. I learned how easily self-betrayal turns into the betrayal of others. I saw how silence becomes resentment, how unmet needs become justifications, and how quickly boundaries fall when you're lonely enough to stop caring about the damage. Sometimes I replay it in my head. One decision, one message, one moment of weakness. That's all it takes. You think it's nothing, just one little fracture in the glass. Then it spreads, and by the time you realize it, the entire thing has shattered. And you're the one holding the hammer, pretending you didn't swing it. I don't expect David to forgive me. I wouldn't if I were him. Some people think forgiveness is healing, but I think honesty does more. I'd rather him hate me for the truth than remember me through the lie I lived for months. If he ever hears this, I hope he knows I never stopped loving him. I just stopped knowing how to show it. I used to think cheating made me a bad person. Now I understand it made me a broken one. There's a difference. Bad people enjoy what they destroy. Broken people destroy things they think they can't fix. I didn't cheat because I wanted more. I cheated because I thought what I had was already gone. The hardest part wasn't losing him. It was learning who I was without him. For years, I built my identity around being a good partner, a supportive wife, someone who had it all together. And when that illusion cracked, I had to start from the bottom. Alone. Without anyone clapping for progress or handing me sympathy. Just me, facing the wreckage, one brutal truth at a time. People ask me now if I'd ever trust someone again. The real question is whether I trust myself. Some days I do. Others, I'm not so sure. But I'm learning. Slowly, honestly. Without shortcuts. There's no moral to this story. No happy ending. Just reality. Messy, raw, and mine.